For those who have left the church because of the sex scandal, and especially of this word cover up, the church covered it up. Now, that word largely came from the media. I'd like to offer some perspective. Always we're pursuing the truth of things. We have to look at them much more holistically, much more accurately. We have a tendency today to look back on people that came before us and to sort of indict them for knowledge they did not have, that we have now. When it comes to the clergy sex abuse and the so-called cover-up, what do we mean by cover-up? Years ago, when these things were brewing, and then they finally they blew up, they came out in the open. But while they were happening, and they were happening over a long period of time, the leaders, church leaders, when these things were happening, they didn't fully understand the gravity of them, or what really these phenomena were, like priests molesting young people. And so they would tell the priest, stop it, you're misbehaving, this isn't right, and if he wouldn't stop, then they moved him, because that's what they knew at the time. And if it became even worse, they did not want the church to undergo scandal. So they did, in a sense, cover it up, or what we might say, handle it in-house. They moved the priest around, or just maybe they even did not put him in a parish. They did things in a way where they thought they were handling it without it coming out. They wanted to preserve the church from scandal. We now call that covering it up. Now, there's a whole spectrum of this. Yes, there were church leaders who were themselves culpable, even involved in this stuff. So they had to cover up even to cover themselves. Yes, there was that on that end of the spectrum. Remember, we're talking a spectrum here. We're not talking either or, bipolar. Cover up or didn't cover up. That's not right. That's not true. That does not give an accurate picture. Yes, you do have on this spectrum those who are very culpable, church leaders, because like I said, they're involved themselves, so they're protecting themselves. All the way to the other end of the spectrum and everything in between, where the church leaders were simply dealing with this the best way they knew how at the time, and they did not want scandals in the church. So yeah, they kept these things secret. They tried to handle it in the best way they could, with the knowledge they could. Furthermore, what happened was when these things started to come out, we started to learn more about them. These priests were sent to places to get, cleaned up, healed, whatever, psychological places. And the psychologists that we trusted so much, the mental health experts that we trust incredibly, implicitly, would tell the bishops, well, this priest is okay now, he's healed. So they bring him back, and he would do it again. The bishops went on the knowledge of the experts. They trusted the experts that we adore today and bow to. The scientists, the medical people, they're the experts, not the church, right? Well, the church trusted our hallowed experts, and we got burned for it. There's another thing that happens, all part of the spectrum. And so we can't indict and look back on people in the past who did not have the knowledge that we have today. We have the knowledge of how grave these things are, how devastating it is, how awful it is. And now we have these systems in place, such as safe environment systems and checks and balances. We're light years away from where we were before. And the people before were functioning on what they knew, and even what they were told by experts at the time. Even the experts have learned. We have all grown in our knowledge of this phenomenon. And the church is responding to it now in a very thorough way. And it keeps responding, and that response gets better and better all the time. So when we use this term cover up, unfortunately, that's a term for the media, and we've sort of picked that up because it's very black and white. It just indicts the whole church. You covered up. Well, yeah, they did, because they thought they were doing good. Now, some were guilty. They covered up because they were guilty. As I said, there is that. Stay on the spectrum with me. Don't go bipolar. Don't go either or. And don't indict people in the past who did not have the knowledge that we have today. And so we deal with these things in a different way. And to understand this whole phenomenon, this cover it more holistically, more accurately, hopefully it helps those who are still reticent to come back to church because of the sex scandal and the cover-up by the church. The cover-up of the church is not a black and white issue. It's not a black and white phenomenon. It's the media, the secular world, that wants us to believe that, but it's not the case. We're going to move on now to actually presenting a case for the mergers and the so-called closing, which we don't like to use the word closing here, that something might be very redemptive about all that. So stay tuned for the good news of it all.